I don't believe this.
She kissed another man without knowing the Mafia boss was watching, and what he does shocks everyone.
Welcome to my library. I'm Lena, and our story is just beginning.
Chapter 1. The Kiss.
Would you like to go with me?
The neon lights from the club sign painted James's face in shades of blue and electric pink, and God, he looked good like this. All sharp jaw and easy smile, the kind of man who didn't carry shadows or secrets, just genuine interest and that rare quality of actually listening when I talked. "You're staring," he said, grinning wider, his hand finding my waist as I leaned back against his car. "Maybe I like what I'm looking at," I shot back, feeling bold, feeling good, feeling like myself for the first time in forever. The bass from inside the club still pulsing faintly enough that I could feel it thrumming through my body, mixing with the champagne buzz and the rush of actually enjoying a night out. Yeah, he stepped closer. Close enough that I had to tilt my head back slightly to maintain eye contact. Close enough that I could smell his cologne, something warm and woody that made me want to lean in. "What exactly do you like? Fishing for compliments already?" I laughed, my hands sliding up his chest, feeling solid muscle under the soft cotton of his shirt. "We've only known each other 3 hours. Best 3 hours of my week." His thumb traced circles on my hip through the thin fabric of my dress, the touch sending pleasant shivers across my skin. "So, I'm making the most of it. Smart man, can I kiss you?" he asked, his eyes dropping to my lips, and the directness of it, the confidence mixed with respect, made something warm bloom in my chest. "I'd be disappointed if you didn't," I said, already pulling him closer. He kissed me, and it was good, really good. His lips firm and sure against mine, his hands sliding around my waist to pull me flush against him. I kissed him back enthusiastically, my fingers threading into his hair, losing myself in the sensation of being wanted without complication, without danger, without the weight of a past I'd left behind. His kiss tasted like whiskey and promise, like Friday nights and lazy Sunday mornings, like the kind of normal I'd convinced myself I didn't need, but was discovering I actually craved. I pressed closer, deepening the kiss, and he made a low sound in his throat that made me smile against his mouth. "You're trouble," he murmured, his lips moving to my jaw, trailing kisses down to that sensitive spot below my ear. "You have no idea," I laughed, breathless and happy, my head tilting back to give him better access, the cool night air a sharp contrast to the heat building between us. "Good." His teeth grazed my pulse point gently. "I like trouble." I was about to tell him exactly how much trouble I could be when I felt it, that prickling awareness at the base of my neck, the sensation of being watched that I'd spent 3 years learning to ignore, to chalk up to paranoia, to pretend didn't exist. I ignored it, refused to let old ghosts ruin this perfect moment with this perfect man who knew nothing about who I used to be. I pulled James back to my mouth, kissing him harder, more insistently, trying to drown out that instinct with sensation. His hands tightened on my waist, lifting me slightly so I was perched on the hood of his car, and I wrapped my legs around him, pulling him between them, feeling powerful and desired, and absolutely in control of my choices. "Reese," he breathed my name like a prayer, and it sounded right, sounded clean, no accent wrapping around the syllables, no history weighing down each letter. "James," I responded, my hands exploring the broad plains of his shoulders, mapping new territory, claiming new ground. The moment was perfect, uncomplicated, exactly what I'd been searching for, which is probably why the universe chose that exact second to shatter it completely. "Reese!" The voice cut through the night air like a blade, deep and rough with an accent I'd spent 3 years trying to forget. Russian edges on American vowels, my name in his mouth, a weapon and a caress all at once. Time didn't slow, it stopped completely. Every nerve in my body went electric. Every instinct I'd buried came roaring back to life. And the worst part, the absolutely devastating part, was that my body recognized him before my brain caught up, responded to his voice like it was coded into my DNA. I pulled back from James, my eyes scanning the parking lot, and there he was, unfolding from a black SUV I hadn't noticed in the shadows, all 6'4" of controlled violence wrapped in an expensive suit that probably cost more than my rent. Adrian Kravitz, the man I'd left behind in Moscow, the man who'd torn my heart out and handed it back to me in pieces, the man who was currently looking at James like he was deciding exactly how to make him disappear. "No," I said out loud, the word escaping before I could stop it, a denial of his presence, of this moment, of the way my stupid heart had kicked into overdrive the second I heard his voice. James looked between us, confusion evident on his face. "Reese!" You okay? Fine, I lied, sliding off the hood of the car, putting distance between myself and James, even though every instinct screamed to run in the opposite direction of Adrian. I'm fine. You don't look fine. James's hand found my elbow, steadying, and I saw Adrian's eyes track the movement, saw his jaw clench in that way that meant he was barely holding on to his control. Adrian moved closer, each step deliberate and predatory, and I hated that I noticed the way he moved, fluid and dangerous, like violence barely contained in human form. I hated that 3 years hadn't dulled the impact of seeing him, hadn't made him any less devastating to witness. We need to talk, he said, when he was close enough that I could see the gold flecks in his eyes, could smell that cologne that used to cling to my skin after nights spent tangled in his sheets. We really don't. I kept my voice steady through sheer force of will. I have nothing to say to you. Then listen. His eyes flicked to James dismissively before returning to me. Get rid of him. The audacity, the sheer fucking audacity of him showing up after 3 years and issuing orders like he had any right, like he hadn't been the one to walk away, like he hadn't destroyed me so completely I'd had to rebuild myself from ash. Excuse me? I stepped forward, anger flooding through me hot and bright, burning away the shock. You don't get to tell me what to do. You gave up that right when you threw me away like I was nothing. Something flashed across his face, too quick to read. That's not what happened. That's exactly what happened. I cut him off. And now you show up here, at your club apparently, acting like you own me? I don't own you. His voice dropped lower, more dangerous. But I do need to talk to you, and it can't wait. James, who'd been watching this exchange with growing concern, finally spoke up. Look, man, I don't know who you are, but Reese clearly doesn't want to talk to you, so maybe you should back off. Adrian's laugh was cold and sharp. You have no idea what you've walked into, do you? No idea who she is, what she's running from. No idea that touching her just signed your death warrant with at least 3 different organizations. Adrian, stop! My voice came out harder than I intended. Stop. What? Telling the truth. He turned that lethal focus back on me. You think you can just show up in my city, in my club, kiss another man where I can see, and expect me to what exactly? Smile and walk away? Your city? I laughed, and it sounded slightly unhinged even to my own ears. Boston is your city now? What happened to Moscow? What happened to the empire you chose over me? I expanded, he said simply, and the casual way he said it, like building a criminal empire across 2 continents, was just business as usual, made me want to scream. And you're not safe here. I'm perfectly safe. No, he cut me off. You're not. Enemies from the old life. They've been looking for you, using you to get to me, and by being here, by being with him, you've just painted a target on both your backs. James stepped forward, protective instinct overriding common sense. Is that a threat? It's a fact. Adrian didn't even look at him. Leave now while you still can. Reese will explain why, or she won't. But either way, this conversation is happening. Reese? James turned to me, confusion and concern warring on his face. What is he talking about? Who is this guy? And there it was, the question I'd been avoiding, the past I'd been running from, the truth I'd buried under 3 years of normal life and safe choices. He's no one, I said, my eyes locked on Adrian's. Just a mistake I made a long time ago. The words landed like a physical blow. I saw it in the way his expression shuddered completely, in the way his hands clenched at his sides, but when he spoke, his voice was perfectly controlled. A mistake, he repeated. Is that what we're calling it now? What else would you call it? I challenged. You used me. You discarded me. You made it very clear I meant nothing. I made it clear you needed to survive. His control cracked slightly, just enough to show the fury underneath. I made it clear that loving you was going to get you killed. The admission hung in the air between us. 3 years of silence broken by that one word. Loving. Present tense. Current. Ongoing. Don't, I whispered, hating how my voice shook. Don't do this. Don't rewrite history to make yourself feel better. I'm not rewriting anything. He stepped closer, and James moved to intercept, but Adrian's eyes pinned him in place. I'm telling you the truth. I should have told you 3 years ago. I sent you away because keeping you meant killing you, because my enemies would have used you to destroy me, and I couldn't. He stopped, jaw working. I couldn't watch you die because of me. Before I could process this, before I could decide if I believed him, or if this was just another manipulation, headlights swept across the parking lot, multiple vehicles moving too fast, too aggressive. Adrian's entire demeanor changed instantly, the man disappearing behind the Mafia boss, his hand moving to the small of his back where I knew without looking he kept a gun. "Inside," he ordered. "Both of you, now." "What's happening?" James started. "Now." Adrian's voice left no room for argument. His security materialized from shadows I hadn't noticed, surrounding us, creating a barrier between us and whatever was coming. I grabbed James's hand and ran, let Adrian's men usher us toward the club entrance, my heart pounding not from fear, but from the terrible, awful realization that 3 years hadn't changed anything. I was still drawn to the danger, still responded to Adrian's authority, still felt that electric pull that made every safe choice feel like settling. The last thing I saw before the door closed was Adrian standing in that parking lot, facing down whatever threat was coming, looking every inch the dangerous man I'd fallen for 3 years ago. And the devastating truth was, some part of me that I'd tried to kill was screaming that he'd come back, that after everything, he'd come back for me. Chapter 2, The Past That Burns.
What happened?
I couldn't sleep. The guest room in Adrian's safe house was too quiet, too comfortable, too full of memories I'd spent 3 years trying to bury. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him standing in that parking lot, saw the way his jaw had clenched when James kissed me, saw the fury and possession, and something that looked dangerously close to pain. I hated that I'd noticed, hated that my body had cataloged every micro-expression, hated that 3 years hadn't dulled the way I could read him like my own heartbeat. The city lights filtered through the curtains, painting shadows on the ceiling, and I let myself remember what I'd been running from, let myself fall back into the past I'd worked so hard to escape. Moscow, 3.5 years ago, the first time I'd seen Adrian Kravitz. He'd been standing in a gallery in Moscow's art district, studying a painting with the kind of intensity most people reserved for something actually important. I'd been there with friends from the study abroad program, 22 years old, and convinced I understood the world. I'd understood nothing. "You don't like it," I'd said, because I was young and stupid and thought starting conversations with beautiful strangers was a good idea. He'd turned to look at me, those pale blue eyes assessing in a way that made me feel stripped bare. "What makes you think that?" "The way you're looking at it," I gestured to the abstract piece, "like you're trying to find something that isn't there." "Maybe I am." His accent had been subtle then, carefully controlled. "Or maybe I'm looking for something the artist didn't intend." "That's the beauty of art, though." I'd stepped closer, drawn in, despite every instinct that whispered danger. "It means whatever you need it to mean." His smile had been devastating, sharp and knowing and absolutely lethal. "And what do you need it to mean?" "Freedom," I'd answered without thinking. "Chaos that somehow makes sense." "Chaos that makes sense," he'd repeated, and something in his expression had shifted. "I like that. What's your name?" "Reese? Reese Donovan?" "Adrian." He'd extended his hand, and when our fingers touched, electricity had shot up my arm, a warning and a promise all at once. "Let me buy you coffee, Reese Donovan. I want to hear more about your theories on chaos." That coffee had turned into dinner, which had turned into walking along the Moscow River until 3 a.m., which had turned into the most intense 6 months of my life. I'd fallen for him completely, recklessly, ignoring every red flag because the way he looked at me made me feel like the only person in the world who mattered. It took me 3 weeks to figure out what he really was. Took another 2 to decide I didn't care. By then I was already too far gone, already addicted to the way his hands felt on my skin, the way he whispered Russian against my neck, the way he made me feel powerful and desired and absolutely alive. "You should leave," he'd told me one night, both of us tangled in his sheets, Moscow glittering below us through floor-to-ceiling windows. "Go back to America. Finish your degree. Forget you ever met me." "No." I traced the scar on his shoulder, the one he'd gotten in a fight he never fully explained. "I'm staying." "Reese." "I'm not afraid of your world, Adrian." I'd kissed him to stop the protest. "I'm not some delicate thing that needs protecting. You should be afraid." His hands had tightened on my waist. "You should be terrified." "But I'm not." I'd pulled back to look at him. "I'm exactly where I want to be." He loved me with a desperation that should have been a warning. Should have told me he was already planning to leave, already deciding that keeping me meant destroying me. But I'd been too lost in sensation to see the goodbye in every touch. Our moment had never been gentle. It had been consuming, possessive, the kind of connection that left marks on your soul. He looked at me like he was trying to memorize every detail, like he was branding himself into my DNA. And God help me, I'd let him. "You're mine." He'd said it like a vow, his forehead pressed against mine. "Say it." "I'm yours," I'd whispered back, believing it with everything I had. The memory shifted, darker now. The night everything had ended. The last night. You need to leave Moscow. Adrian's voice had been flat, emotionless. All the warmth I'd grown accustomed to completely gone. Tonight. What? Why? I'd been in his apartment, wearing his shirt, feeling safe in a way I hadn't felt since arriving in Russia. What happened? Nothing happened. He wouldn't look at me. This was always temporary. I thought you understood that. The words had hit like physical blows. Temporary? Adrian, we've been together for 6 months. 6 months isn't forever. He'd finally met my eyes, and the coldness there had stolen my breath. You're a nice girl, Reese, but you don't belong in my world. I need someone who understands the life, someone who can handle the reality of what I do. I can handle it? You can't. He'd cut me off. You're a student playing at being dangerous, but when real danger comes, you'll break, and I don't have time to pick up the pieces. You don't mean that? I'd stepped toward him, but he'd stepped back, the rejection clear. I do. His voice had been gentle now, which somehow made it worse. You've been fun, Reese. A pleasant distraction, but it's time for you to go home. A pleasant distraction. 6 months of intensity reduced to casual entertainment. 6 months of falling in love with someone who apparently had never felt the same. I love you. I'd said it desperately, hating myself for it, but unable to stop. Adrian, I love you. I know, he'd said simply. And that had been the cruelest part, the acknowledgement without reciprocation. But I don't love you. Not enough to let you ruin your life for me. He'd had plane tickets already purchased, had my things already packed, had made every decision without consulting me, because that's who Adrian Kravitz was. A man who controlled everything and everyone, including apparently my own choices. I'd left that night, crying the entire flight back to Boston, and I'd sworn I'd never let anyone have that kind of power over me again. Present. A knock on the door pulled me from the memory. I sat up, wiping at eyes that had somehow gotten wet. Come in. James entered, still dressed despite the late hour. Couldn't sleep either? Too much to process, I admitted, grateful for the distraction from my thoughts. He sat on the edge of the bed, careful to maintain appropriate distance. Do you want to talk about it? About him? Not really. I pulled my knees to my chest. But I probably should. You loved him. It wasn't a question. I was 22 and stupid, I said. I thought intensity meant love, thought danger was the same as passion. And now? James's eyes were kind, genuinely concerned. What do you think now? Now I think I don't know anything. I laughed without humor. I spent 3 years convincing myself I was over him, that what we had wasn't real, and then he shows up and says he sent me away to protect me, that he loved me the whole time. Do you believe him? I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to believe there was a good reason he destroyed me, but the other part remembers how easily he lied, how cold he was when he told me to leave. James was quiet for a moment. Can I tell you something? As someone who's only known you for 12 hours, but still sees clearly. Please? You kissed me tonight, and it was nice, he said carefully. But when he showed up, everything about you changed. Your breathing, your posture, the way you held yourself, whatever you had with him. It's not over. It has to be over, I said. I can't go back to that, to being with someone who makes decisions for me, who thinks loving me means controlling me. Then don't go back to who you were. James shifted closer, his hand finding mine. If you choose him as who you are now, not who you were then. And if I choose you, the question hung between us. Then you choose safe, he said honestly. You choose someone who will never make your heart race the way he does, but who will also never break it. The brutal honesty of it made me look at him closer, really see him. Why are you being so understanding about this? Because I like you. He squeezed my hand gently. I like you enough to want you to make the right choice, even if that choice isn't me. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed on the nightstand, a text from an unknown number, but I knew who it was before I even opened it. Adrian, can't sleep either. Come upstairs, please. My heart kicked against my ribs. Upstairs meant his private space, the penthouse above the safe house, the place he actually lived instead of just worked. Go, James said, reading my expression. Figure out what you need to figure out. James? I'll still be here tomorrow. He smiled sadly. That's the difference between us. He's intensity and passion and chaos. But I'm consistent, steady. I'll be here whenever you're ready. I kissed his cheek, grateful and guilty in equal measure. Then I grabbed my phone and headed for the stairs, every step feeling like walking toward either salvation or destruction. And the terrifying part was, I still didn't know which. In Chapter 3, the conversation that changes everything.
That's exactly how it was.
The penthouse was exactly how I remembered it. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston's skyline, minimalist furniture that probably cost more than most people's cars, and that pervasive scent of cedar and expensive cologne that was so distinctly Adrian it made my chest ache. He was standing by the windows, hands in his pockets, still wearing the blood-stained shirt from earlier. He didn't turn when I entered, just kept staring out at the city like he was searching for answers in the lights below. "You came." His voice was rough, tired in a way I'd never heard before. "You said please." I stayed near the door, maintaining distance because getting too close felt dangerous. "That's new for you." "A lot of things are new." He finally turned to face me, and in the dim lighting I could see the exhaustion etched into his features, the shadows under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. "Including the fact that you're here, in my city, after I spent 3 years keeping you away." "You didn't keep me away," I corrected, moving into the room slowly. "I left because you made it impossible to stay. There's a difference." "Is there?" His smile was bitter. "Because from where I'm standing, the result was the same. You were safe, alive, building a life that didn't include bullets and blood." "And miserable!" The admission came out before I could stop it. "I was safe and alive and absolutely miserable." Something flickered across his face, too quick to read. "You looked happy tonight. With him, you were laughing, living. That's what I wanted for you." "You wanted me happy without you," I said, and it came out more accusatory than intended. "That's convenient, Adrian. You get to feel noble about breaking my heart because, look, I survived." "I never said it was noble." He moved closer, each step deliberate. "I said it was necessary. There's a difference." "Stop doing that." I held my ground, even though every instinct screamed to either run or close the distance between us. "Stop justifying what you did, like it was some selfless act. You hurt me. You destroyed me. You don't get to rewrite that as protection." "You're right." The admission surprised me. He stopped a few feet away, close enough that I could see the gold flecks in his pale eyes. "I hurt you. I broke your heart because I was too much of a coward to tell you the truth, that keeping you meant watching you die." "That's dramatic." 3 attempts on your life in 2 months. He cut me off, his voice hard now. 3 times they tried to kill you to get to me. The gallery where we met, they burned it down 2 weeks after you left. That cafe you loved, bombed. Everyone inside died, Reese. Everyone. The words hit like ice water. I'd known his world was dangerous in an abstract way, but hearing the specifics, understanding how close I'd come to being collateral damage, made everything real in a way it hadn't been before. "You never told me?" "Because telling you would have made you stay." He stepped closer, close enough now that I could feel the heat radiating from him. "You would have insisted on fighting, on proving you weren't afraid, and they would have killed you to prove I wasn't untouchable." "So you chose for me," I said quietly. "You decided my life was worth more than my choice." "Yes." No hesitation, no apology. "I chose your life over your autonomy, and I'd do it again. I'd do it 1,000 times over if it meant you got to live." The intensity in his voice, the absolute certainty, it should have made me angry, should have reinforced every reason I'd spent 3 years hating him. Instead, it made something in my chest crack open, something I'd sealed shut when I'd left Moscow. "You can't just show up after 3 years and say things like that," I whispered, hating how my voice shook. "You can't make me feel this way again." "What way?" He was close enough now that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact, close enough that I could see the way his pupils dilated, the way his breathing had gone slightly uneven, like I'm the only thing that matters. The admission felt like surrender, like the world could be ending, and you'd only care if I was okay. "That's because you are the only thing that matters." His hand came up, not touching but hovering near my face like he was afraid I'd disappear if he made contact. "I've built empires, Reese. Killed men, made fortunes, lost them, gained them back, and none of it, not a single second of it, has mattered as much as the fact that you're alive and standing in front of me." "Adrian!" My breath caught as his fingers finally made contact, tracing my cheekbone with a gentleness that felt at odds with the violence I knew he was capable of. "I know I don't have the right to touch you," he said quietly, his thumb brushing across my lower lip. "I know I gave that up when I sent you away, but Christ, Reese, I've spent 3 years dreaming about this, about having you close enough to touch again." I should have stepped back, should have reinforced boundaries, should have done anything except lean into his touch like a flower turning toward the sun, but my body remembered him in a way my mind refused to, remembered the way his hands felt, the way he looked at me like I was something precious and corruptible all at once. "This is a bad idea," I whispered, but I didn't move. "Terrible idea." he agreed, his other hand finding my waist, pulling me incrementally closer. The worst I've had in years. Then why? The question died as he pulled me flush against him, as I felt the solid warmth of his body, the rapid beat of his heart that matched mine. Because 3 years apart didn't change anything. His forehead touched mine, and I felt him exhale shakily. Because I've tried to move on, tried to forget, tried to convince myself you were better off, and all it did was make me realize I'm not complete without you. That's not fair, I breathed, my hands fisting in his shirt without my permission. You don't get to say things like that. Nothing about this is fair. His nose brushed against mine, lips so close I could feel his breath. But it's true. You want fair. Be with him. Be with James, who will give you normal and safe and everything you deserve. And you? The question came out barely audible. What will you give me? Chaos. His smile was sharp against my lips. Danger, intensity, a life where you'll never be bored, but might not be safe. I'll give you everything I am, Reese. All the darkness and violence and obsessive need, and I'll spend every day trying to be worthy of it. You're not selling this well? I tried to joke, but it came out breathless. I'm not trying to sell anything. His hand slid up my back, tangling in my hair. I'm trying to be honest. For once in my life, I'm trying to give you the truth instead of pretty lies. The honesty of it, the raw vulnerability in his voice. It broke something in me. 3 years of anger and hurt and carefully constructed walls crumbled in the space of a heartbeat, and before I could think better of it, I closed the distance and kissed him. It felt like coming home and stepping off a cliff at the same time, familiar and overwhelming. His kiss carried 3 years of distance, regret, and everything we'd never said out loud. I kissed him like I'd been holding my breath for years, and only now remembered how to breathe again. A low sound escaped him, raw and unguarded, and I felt it resonate through me. My name on his lips sounded like both a confession and a warning. He guided me back gently, the cool glass at my shoulders a sharp contrast to the storm building between us. Tell me to stop, he murmured, his voice unsteady. I should have. I knew I should have. Instead, I held on. He kissed me again, deeper, slower, as if trying to memorize the moment rather than rush through it. The world narrowed to the space between us, every emotion crashing at once. Longing, relief, fear, and the terrifying certainty that some connections never fade, no matter how much time tries to erase them. This was what had been missing with James. This intensity, this desperate need, this feeling like if we didn't get closer, we'd both combust. James had kissed me like I was precious, but Adrian kissed me like I was oxygen. The comparison made guilt spike through me. I broke the kiss, breathing hard, my hands still fisted in his shirt. I know. He didn't step back, but he stopped touching me beyond his hands on my waist, his forehead resting against mine while we both tried to catch our breath. You need time. You need to figure out what you want. I don't know what I want, I admitted, my voice small. Yes, you do. He pulled back slightly, forcing me to meet his eyes. You just don't want to admit it because it's not the safe choice. Maybe I want safe, protested weakly. Maybe you should have safe. His thumb traced my cheekbone again. Maybe you deserve someone who won't put you in danger, who will give you normal and predictable and all the things I can't. Then why are you arguing against it? Because I'm selfish. His smile was self-deprecating. Because I want you, even though I shouldn't. Because 3 years of trying to do the right thing didn't make me noble. It just made me miserable. I laughed, the sound slightly unhinged. We're a mess. We always were, he agreed. The question is whether you want to be a mess with me or build something clean with him. The choice hung between us, heavy and impossible. I wanted to say I needed more time, wanted to claim I didn't know, but the truth was I did know. Had known since the moment Adrian's voice cut through that parking lot, had known since his touch reminded me what it felt like to be consumed. But knowing and choosing were different things. Knowing meant acknowledging that safe wasn't enough, that I'd rather have chaos with Adrian than peace with anyone else, and that truth was terrifying. I should go, I said finally, untangling myself from him even though every cell in my body protested the distance. James is downstairs and I can't do this while he's here. It's not fair. Life isn't fair, Adrian said, but he let me go. But you're right. Figure out what you need to figure out. Just know that I'm not going anywhere this time. I'm here, I'm staying, and I'm willing to fight for you in a way I wasn't 3 years ago. I made it to the door before his voice stopped me. Reese? I turned, my hand on the doorknob. When you kissed him tonight, Adrian's eyes held mine across the room. Did you feel what you just felt with me? The question was unfair, brutal, and devastatingly accurate. No, I admitted, because lying seemed pointless now. But maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe feeling less means hurting less. Or maybe it means living less, he countered. You decide which one you can live with. I left before I could change my mind, before I could go back to him and make choices I wasn't ready to make. As I walked down the stairs back to the safe house, back to where James was waiting, I touched my lips and felt them still tingling from Adrian's kiss. And I knew, with devastating certainty, that whatever choice I made, someone was going to get hurt. The only question was whether I had the courage to choose the intensity that scared me or the safety that left me numb. Chapter 4. The Morning That Forces Choices.
What are they saying? What are they saying?
I woke up to the smell of bacon and the sound of male voices arguing in the kitchen. For a disoriented moment, I thought I was dreaming. Then reality crashed back. Adrian's penthouse, James downstairs. My lips still swollen from a kiss that had felt like coming home and jumping off a cliff simultaneously. I dragged myself out of bed and followed the voices, finding a scene so absurd it would have been funny if my life wasn't currently imploding. James stood at the stove making breakfast, like this was normal, like he cooked in Russian Mafia safe houses every day, while Adrian sat at the kitchen island watching him with undisguised amusement. "You're doing it wrong," Adrian said, his accent more pronounced this morning, probably deliberately. "Bacon needs higher heat. I've been making bacon for 30 years. James flipped a strip with more force than necessary. "I think I know what I'm doing." "Clearly not." Adrian took a sip of coffee, his eyes finding me in the doorway. "Good morning, Malaya." The endearment hit like a physical touch, Russian for darling or sweet one, something he used to whisper against my skin in Moscow. James's jaw tightened at the sound of it, at the intimacy implied. "Morning." I moved into the kitchen, hyper-aware of both men tracking my movement. "What's happening here?" James insisted on making breakfast. Adrian's smile was all teeth. "I'm supervising." "You're criticizing," James corrected, plating bacon that looked perfectly fine to me. "There's a difference." "Is there?" Adrian stood, moving to the coffee maker, deliberately passing close enough to me that our arms brushed. The contact sent electricity up my skin, and I saw him notice my reaction, saw satisfaction flicker across his face. This was going to be torture. "Coffee?" Adrian asked, already pouring me a cup. He added cream and sugar without asking, exactly how I liked it, exactly how he'd made it 1,000 times in Moscow. "Thanks." I took the cup, our fingers brushing in the exchange, and this time the contact lasted a beat too long. Deliberate on his part, devastating on mine. James set plates on the counter with slightly more force than necessary. "Breakfast is ready." We sat in uncomfortable silence, the tension thick enough to cut. I focused on my eggs while hyper-aware of Adrian's presence beside me, the way his arm occasionally brushed mine, the way he smelled like cedar and danger and 3 years of memories I'd tried to bury. "So," James broke the silence, "what's the plan for today?" "The plan," Adrian said, his tone casual but his eyes sharp, "is that Reese stays here where it's secure until I handle the Kozlov situation. The plan," I corrected, "is that Reese makes her own decisions about where she stays and what she does." Adrian's smile was approving. "Fair enough. What do you want to do?" "I want to go to my apartment," I said, even though the thought of leaving this bubble terrified me. "I want to get my things, check on my life, pretend for 5 minutes that everything isn't completely insane." "Too dangerous?" Adrian said immediately. "I'll go with her," James offered. "Keep her safe." The look Adrian gave James could have frozen hell. "You'll keep her safe." "That's what I said." James met his eyes without flinching, and I had to admit, the fact that he wasn't intimidated by Adrian was impressive. Stupid, but impressive. "You're a civilian with no training facing off against professional killers." Adrian's voice was deadly calm. "What exactly is your plan when they show up? Bore them to death with corporate law?" "Adrian," I warned. "What? I'm being practical." He turned that intense focus on me. "You want to go to your apartment? Fine, but I'm coming with you, not him." "You can't just—" "Actually, I can." He stood, already moving toward the door. "Get dressed, we leave in 10 minutes. The authoritative tone should have made me angry, should have made me push back. Instead, some traitorous part of me responded to it, remembered how that control had felt in other contexts, in bedrooms and late nights and moments where surrender had felt like power. "This is ridiculous," James said. "Reese, you don't have to do what he says." "I know." I stood, caught between both men and the choices they represented. "But he's right. If something happens, Adrian can handle it better than you can." The admission hurt James. I could see it in his eyes. The acknowledgement that in this world, normal wasn't enough. Safe wasn't strong enough. "I'll be back soon," I told him gently. "And then we'll talk. Really talk." "Will we?" His smile was sad, because it feels like you've already made your choice. You just haven't admitted it yet. He wasn't wrong, and we both knew it. 20 minutes later, I was in Adrian's car, a sleek black Mercedes that probably cost more than my annual salary. The leather seats smelled new, and the dashboard had more technology than my apartment. He drove with one hand on the wheel, the other resting on the gear shift close enough to my thigh that I could feel the heat. You didn't have to be cruel to him, I said, breaking the silence. I wasn't being cruel. Adrian navigated Boston traffic with the ease of someone who owned the city. I was being honest. He can't protect you. Pretending otherwise is dangerous. He's a good man. I know. Surprisingly, he sounded sincere. That's what makes this complicated. If he was an asshole, this would be easy. Easy how? Easy because you'd choose me without guilt. He glanced over, his eyes hidden behind expensive sunglasses. But he's good and kind and everything you should want, which makes me the villain for wanting you anyway. You're not the villain, I said quietly. Aren't I? His smile was sharp. I'm asking you to choose chaos over peace, danger over safety. I'm the bad guy in this story, Reese. Let's not pretend otherwise. Then why am I here? I challenged. If you're so convinced you're bad for me, why fight for this? He was quiet for a long moment, his jaw working. When he finally spoke, his voice was rougher. Because 3 years of being noble didn't make me a better man. It just made me a miserable one. Because I tried to let you go and failed spectacularly. Because he stopped at a red light, turned to face me fully. Because selfish or not, villain or not, I love you. I've loved you since you walked into that gallery in Moscow and told me chaos could make sense. The raw honesty of it stole my breath. No games, no manipulation, just brutal truth delivered like a confession. Adrian, you don't have to say it back. He turned back to the road as the light changed. I'm not asking you to. I just need you to know that whatever you decide, it's not because I didn't fight for you this time. We pulled up to my apartment building, a modest brownstone in Back Bay that was nowhere near as secure as Adrian's safe house. He parked illegally, not caring, and came around to open my door like this was a date instead of a potentially dangerous supply run. Stay close, he said, his hand finding the small of my back as we walked toward the entrance. And if anything feels wrong, you tell me immediately. My apartment was on the 3rd floor, and climbing those stairs with Adrian behind me felt surreal, like two parts of my life colliding in a way they were never supposed to. I unlocked the door and stepped into space that suddenly felt too small, too ordinary, too safe for someone like him. This is nice, Adrian said, moving through my living room with the same intensity he'd studied that painting in Moscow, like he was cataloging every detail. Very you. What does that mean? I moved to my bedroom, pulling out a bag to pack essentials. Warm? He appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame. Comfortable. Books everywhere. That painting above your couch? Is that the one from the gallery? The one we were arguing about when we met? I stopped, surprised he remembered. You bought it? I bought it 3 years ago, he admitted. Right after you left. I was going to ship it to you, but I couldn't bring myself to. Kept it in storage like some pathetic reminder of what I'd lost. Adrian, my throat tightened. Don't! He pushed off the doorframe, crossing to where I stood. Don't give me sympathy when what I did to you doesn't deserve it. What if I want to? I turned to face him fully. What if I'm tired of being angry? Then you're more forgiving than I deserve. His hand came up, cupping my face with devastating gentleness. But I'll take it. I'll take whatever you're willing to give me and spend the rest of my life trying to earn it. He kissed me then, soft and slow and completely different from last night's desperation. This was reverent, worshipful, like he was trying to memorize the taste of me. I kissed him back, my hands sliding up his chest, feeling his heart racing under my palms. We shouldn't, I breathed against his mouth. Probably not, he agreed, but his hands tightened on my waist, pulling me closer. Tell me to stop. Instead of answering, I pulled him toward the bed. Years of denial breaking like a dam, we fell onto the mattress tangled together, his weight a familiar comfort, his hands mapping skin he'd memorized years ago. Reese, my name was a question and a prayer. Don't stop. I pulled him down for another kiss. Not this time. He didn't. And for the first time in 3 years, I felt whole. Chapter 5. The side of him I never knew.
Why didn't you tell me before?
We were tangled in my sheets, my head on Adrian's chest listening to his heartbeat slow back to normal, when his phone rang for the 4th time in 10 minutes. He'd been ignoring it, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my back. But whoever was calling wasn't giving up. You should answer that, I murmured against his skin. I should, he agreed, but didn't move. 5 more minutes of pretending the world doesn't exist. The phone rang again, this time accompanied by rapid-fire text notifications. he sighed, the sound rumbling through his chest. Or not. He reached for the phone on the nightstand, his free arm still around me. I watched his expression shift from relaxed to alert to something I'd never seen before. Soft and almost nervous? Da, he answered in Russian, his voice taking on a gentler quality. Ya znаю, malenkaya. I'm sorry I'm late. Malenkaya, little one. The endearment made me prop myself up on my elbow, studying his face as he listened to whoever was on the other end. I know. His smile was genuine, unguarded in a way I'd never witnessed. Tell Anya I'm coming now, and yes, I'll bring the good ice cream, not the healthy stuff she tries to sneak. He hung up, and I immediately asked, Who's Malenkaya? My niece. He sat up, running a hand through his already disheveled hair. Katya, she's 6. I'm supposed to be picking her up from school right now. You have a niece, I repeated, trying to process this information. You pick her up from school. Every Wednesday, he was already getting dressed, pulling on his shirt with efficient movements. My sister, Irina, she's a doctor, works late on Wednesdays, so I have Katya duty. The image of Adrian Kravitz, feared Mafia boss, doing after-school pickup was so incongruous, I almost laughed. You're serious! Completely, he was buckling his belt now, transforming back into the intimidating man who'd walked into my apartment. Except now I knew he had ice cream preferences for a 6-year-old. Come with me. What? Come with me, he repeated, holding out his hand. Meet her, unless you'd rather I'd drop you back at the safe house first. The offer was casual, but his eyes were intense, like this mattered more than he was letting on, like introducing me to his niece was somehow more significant than everything that had just happened in my bed. Okay, I found myself saying, already getting dressed. But I'm not great with kids. She's not great with new people, he countered. So you'll both be uncomfortable. It'll be adorable. 40 minutes later, we pulled up to an exclusive private school in Brookline, the kind with security gates and uniforms and tuition that probably cost more than my rent. Adrian parked in a loading zone without care, already scanning the pickup area. There, he pointed to a small girl with dark curls sitting alone on a bench, reading a book that looked too advanced for her age. That's Katya. As we approached, the girl looked up and her entire face transformed. She launched herself at Adrian with the kind of trust only children have. He caught her easily, swinging her up like she weighed nothing. Uncle Dree! She wrapped small arms around his neck. You're late. I had to read my book twice. I'm sorry, Princessa. He set her down gently, crouching to her level. I got held up with work. Did you shoot anyone? She asked it so matter-of-factly I choked on air. Katya? Adrian's voice held warning and amusement. What did we talk about? Don't ask about shooting before dinner, she recited like a memorized rule. Then her attention shifted to me. Who's that? Is she your girlfriend? She's pretty. Does she know you snore? I don't snore, Adrian protested. You do, Katya insisted, then looked at me expectantly. So, girlfriend? I opened my mouth, having no idea how to answer, but Adrian beat me to it. This is Reese, he said, his hand finding mine. She's very important to me. Important how? Katya's 6-year-old interrogation was surprisingly effective. Like important business or important heart. Heart, Adrian admitted, and the simplicity of it made my chest tight. Katya studied me with unsettling intensity for someone so small. Okay, you can come for ice cream, but Uncle Dree buys, he's richer. I think I like her, I said as we walked toward an ice cream shop Katya directed us to with the authority of someone who'd done this route many times. She grows on you, Adrian said, but his expression was softer than I'd ever seen it. Like a very opinionated fungus. I heard that, Katya called from ahead of us. Fungi are very important for ecosystems. We learned about it in science. Inside the ice cream shop, I watched Adrian with Katya and saw a completely different person. He let her order 3 scoops, even though it was probably too much. He listened intently while she explained the complex social dynamics of first grade. He wiped chocolate off her chin with a gentleness that seemed impossible from hands I knew had killed people. So Reese, Katya addressed me seriously over her ice cream. Do you know Uncle Dree is in the Mafia? I choked on my own ice cream. Adrian closed his eyes in what looked like prayer. Katya, what? She blinked innocently. I'm not supposed to tell other people. But she's your girlfriend. She probably knows. I know, I managed, unsure whether to laugh or be concerned about this child's grasp of operational security. Good, Katya nodded approvingly. The last girlfriend didn't know, and it was very awkward when she found out. Lots of screaming. I didn't like her anyway. She was mean to the waiters. There was no last girlfriend, Adrian said firmly. That was 3 years ago, and we weren't. He looked at me helplessly. She was no one, I supplied. because apparently I was petty enough to be pleased about this. Exactly. Adrian's smile was grateful. We spent another hour with Katya, who apparently had unlimited energy and opinions. By the time we dropped her back at her mother's house, my face hurt from smiling, and I'd learned more about Adrian than 3 years in Moscow had taught me. He was patient with children. He knew all the words to Disney songs. He let Katya paint his nails once. It was for a tea party. I'm not a monster. He worried about her eating vegetables. He'd learned to braid hair from YouTube videos. Thank you, he said as we drove away, his voice quiet, for coming. For meeting her. Thank you for showing me, I countered. This side of you. It's not very intimidating, he admitted. The feared Mafia boss who gets bossed around by a 6-year-old. It's perfect, I said honestly, then paused. Why didn't you tell me about her? Before. In Moscow? He was quiet for a long moment. Because everyone I love becomes a target. Keeping you separate from that part of my life was supposed to keep you safer. Clearly, I'm terrible at compartmentalizing. Clearly, I agreed. But something warm had settled in my chest. He'd shown me vulnerability, trusted me with something precious that meant more than any declaration. We pulled up to the safe house just as my phone buzzed with a text from James. James, we need to talk. Now. It's important. Adrian saw the message. Trouble? I don't know, I admitted, but I should go find out. I'll come with you. Adrian? Not negotiable. His jaw was set. Whatever he has to say, he can say it in front of me. We found James in the kitchen, but he wasn't alone. A woman sat at the counter, mid-30s, beautiful in that effortless way some people were. She looked up when we entered, and her smile was strained. Reese, James stood. This is Claire, my fiancée. The word hit like a sledgehammer. Fiancé, present tense, current. I'm sorry, I said slowly. Your what? Ex-fiancé, Claire corrected, but her hand was on James's arm in a way that said the ex part was negotiable. We were engaged for 2 years, broke up 6 months ago. I made a mistake. I'm here to fix it. James looked miserable. Claire, this isn't the time. Oh, when is the time? Claire turned to him. You've been avoiding me for weeks. I had to track you down through your assistant, and now I find you're hiding in some safe house with... She looked at me. Her. I'm not hiding, James said, but it lacked conviction. Really? Claire's laugh was bitter. Because you sure as hell aren't at your apartment or your office. What's going on, James? Who are these people? Adrian stepped forward, his presence immediately changing the energy in the room. I think that's our cue to give you privacy. Actually, I found my voice. I think I need to hear this, James. Were you engaged when you kissed me last night? No, he said firmly. We'd been broken up for 6 months. I wasn't lying about that. But you didn't mention her, I pointed out. Didn't mention that apparently she wants you back. Because it didn't matter. He looked at me desperately. What we had. What we were building, that was real. Claire being here doesn't change that, doesn't it? Claire's voice was sharp. You kissed someone else. You clearly didn't mean it when you said you'd always love me. I do love you, James said quietly, and the admission made something in my chest twist. But Reese made me feel. Feel what? Claire demanded. What could she possibly give you that I can't? Excitement, he admitted. Danger, intensity, the same things you always said you hated about me wanting. Because I want a life, James, Claire's voice cracked. Not an adventure. A life. Kids and Sunday dinners and boring normality. The parallel wasn't lost on me. Claire wanted from James what James was offering me, safety and normalcy, while James wanted from me what I'd had with Adrian, intensity and chaos. We were all choosing the wrong people for the right reasons. I think, I said slowly, that you two need to talk, really talk, without an audience. Reese, James started. She's right. Adrian's hand found my back. Come on, Malaya. Let's give them space. As we left the kitchen, I heard Claire's voice, softer now. James, please, let's just talk. Really talk. Adrian guided me to his car, neither of us speaking until we were inside. Well, he said finally, that was awkward. That's one word for it. I laughed, slightly unhinged. Turns out we're all a mess. Seems that way. He started the engine. For what it's worth. He loves her. I know, I said, and she loves him. They're probably perfect for each other if they can get past their own bullshit. Unlike us, Adrian said wryly, who are drowning in bullshit. So much bullshit, I agreed, but I was smiling. He reached over, lacing his fingers through mine. You know what this means, though, right? What? You're not choosing between me and him anymore. His eyes met mine. You're just choosing whether you want this, us, chaos, and all. He was right. James had someone who wanted the same life he wanted, someone who could give him the normalcy he craved. I wasn't that person, had never been that person. Take me home, I said. Your home, the penthouse. I think we need to talk. Talking? His smile was slow and devastating. Is that what we're calling it? Among other things, I agreed, and felt the last of my resistance crumble. I was choosing chaos, choosing danger, choosing Adrian with full knowledge of what that meant. And surprisingly, I was okay with that. Chapter 6, The Misunderstanding That Breaks.
I don't understand.
We were halfway to Adrian's penthouse when his phone rang again. This time, his entire body tensed at the caller ID. Something that looked almost like panic flickered across his face before being replaced by his usual control. I need to take this, he said, pulling over abruptly. Wait here. He got out of the car before I could respond, walking several feet away, his back to me as he answered in rapid Russian. Even through the closed windows, I could hear the intensity in his voice, the way he kept running his hand through his hair. A tell I'd learned meant he was stressed. The call lasted 15 minutes, each one making my stomach tighten with the anxiety I couldn't name. When he finally returned to the car, his expression was carefully blank, in that way that meant he was hiding something. Everything okay? I asked. Fine. He started driving again, but his knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Just business. Adrian, it's handled. His voice had that edge that meant the conversation was over. Don't worry about it. But I was worrying, because in Moscow I'd learned that when Adrian went cold and distant, when he shut me out with, don't worry about it, something was very wrong. And usually, I was the problem he was trying to solve without consulting me. We pulled up to his building, and he was already on his phone again, texting furiously, his jaw set in that stubborn line I recognized. I need to handle something, he said as we entered the penthouse. Make yourself at home. I'll be back in a few hours. A few hours? I caught his arm. Adrian, what's going on? Nothing I can explain right now. He kissed my forehead, distracted, already moving toward the door. Trust me, please. Just trust me. Then he was gone, leaving me alone in his penthouse with more questions than answers and a sinking feeling in my stomach that felt too much like Moscow, too much like being shut out, too much like him making decisions without me. I tried to distract myself, explored his space, found evidence of the life he'd built without me, business files I couldn't read, weapons I didn't want to think about, and then, in his bedroom, I found it. A woman's earring on the nightstand, delicate and expensive, definitely not mine. My heart stopped. I picked it up with shaking hands, studying the design. It was recent, no dust, like someone had left it here within the past few days, maybe even yesterday. The bedroom door had been closed when we'd arrived. I hadn't thought anything of it then, but now I realized, had someone been here while I'd been at the safe house with James? Had Adrian been? No, I refused to let my mind go there. There was an explanation. There had to be an explanation. I called him. It went straight to voicemail. I texted, found an earring in your bedroom. Want to explain? No response. An hour passed, then 2. I tried calling again. Still nothing. The rational part of my brain said to wait, to trust him like he'd asked. But the part that remembered Moscow, remembered being shut out and lied to, for my own good, that part was screaming. I called the only other person who might have answers. Reese? James sounded surprised. Is everything okay? I don't know, I admitted, hating how my voice shook. Can you come get me? I'm at Adrian's penthouse and I need to leave. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He was there in 15. Claire wasn't with him, and the concern on his face was so genuine it made my chest ache. This was what I'd been trying to avoid. This exact situation where Adrian's world swallowed me whole and spit me out confused and hurt. What happened? James asked as I climbed into his car. I don't know. I showed him the earring. I found this, and he left hours ago saying he had to handle something. Won't answer his phone, won't explain what's going on. James's jaw tightened. That bastard! Maybe there's an explanation. There's always an explanation with guys like him, James said, pulling into traffic. But the explanation is usually that they're doing something they don't want you to know about. He wasn't wrong, and that truth hurt more than it should. Where's Claire? I asked, needing to think about anything else. Hotel. His expression was complicated. We talked, really talked, and I think we both need time to figure out what we actually want versus what we think we should want. The parallel to my own situation wasn't lost on me. So what do you want? I asked. He glanced at me, then back at the road. Honestly, right now I want to take you somewhere you can forget about him for a few hours. Somewhere normal and safe and completely disconnected from his world. That sounds perfect, I said and meant it. James took me to a dive bar in Cambridge. the kind of place with sticky floors and cheap beer and absolutely no one who cared about Russian mafia politics. It was gloriously normal, refreshingly ordinary, exactly what I needed. "This is one of my favorite places," James said as we claimed a booth in the corner. "Law school hangout. I used to come here to decompress after brutal exams." "It's perfect," I said, and watched him relax. Watched him become the man I'd met at that club instead of the man competing with Adrian. We ordered burgers and beers, played terrible pop songs on the jukebox, and for a few hours I let myself pretend this was my life. Simple and uncomplicated, no danger, no drama, just James's easy smile and genuine laugh. "Tell me something," he said after his third beer. "If Adrian wasn't in the picture, if you'd met me first, do you think we could have worked?" Honestly, I considered it. "Maybe you're everything I should want, James. You're kind and stable and you make me feel safe. But," he heard the unspoken word, "but I don't know if safe is enough," I admitted. "I don't know if I can go back to normal after experiencing extraordinary. Even if extraordinary hurts you," his hand found mine across the table. "Because Reese, I see how he affects you, how you light up around him, but also how you're anxious, waiting for the other shoe to drop." That's exhausting," he interrupted gently. "Love shouldn't feel like walking on a tightrope. You should feel secure." "Is that how Claire makes you feel?" I challenged. "Secure?" His smile was rueful. "Touché, no. She makes me feel like I'm constantly failing to be enough. Like I'm too boring, too normal, too safe. So we're both choosing people who make us feel inadequate." I laughed without humor. "That's healthy." "Or," James squeezed my hand, "we could choose each other, choose the people who make us feel valued instead of anxious." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Adrian's name lit up the screen, and my heart jumped in a way that proved every point James had just made. "Adrian, where are you? I came back and you're gone." Me, "Out with James?" Adrian, "Reese, we need to talk about what you found." Me, "So talk." Adrian, "Not over text. Come back, please." I stared at the phone, torn between the man who made my heart race and the man who made it feel safe. "Go," James said quietly. "Go talk to him. Get your answers." "James?" "But Reese," he met my eyes. "When you're done talking to him, really think about what you want. Because I'm here. I'm real. And I'm not going to shut you out or disappear or make you wonder if you can trust me." He was offering everything I thought I wanted, everything rational, everything safe. So why did it feel like settling? I called an Uber back to Adrian's penthouse, my stomach in knots. The ride felt too long and too short simultaneously. What would I find when I got there? An explanation? Another lie? The end of everything before it really began? The penthouse door was unlocked. Adrian stood by the windows, still in the same clothes from earlier, his shoulders tense. He turned when he heard me enter, and the expression on his face was raw, vulnerable, in a way I'd never seen. "The earring," he said without preamble. "It's my sister's. Irina was here yesterday. She stayed over after we had dinner because she was too tired to drive home. She must have left it." Relief flooded through me so intensely my knees went weak. "Your sister's?" "My sister's." He crossed to me, his hands framing my face. "Reese, I would never, Christ, I would never do that to you." "Then why didn't you just tell me that?" I demanded, anger replacing relief. "Why let me spend hours thinking—" "Because I'm an idiot," he cut me off. "Because I was dealing with something and I shut you out instead of trusting you with it, old habits." "What were you dealing with?" He hesitated, and I saw him war with himself, saw the moment he decided to trust me. "There's a threat. Someone from Moscow who found out you're back in my life. I spent the afternoon handling it, making sure they understand that touching you means war." "You should have told me." "I should have," he agreed. "But my first instinct is still to protect you by keeping you in the dark. And that's not fair. I'm working on it, I swear I'm working on it, but I need you to be patient with me." "I'm trying," I said honestly. "But Adrian, this is exactly what drove me away before. You making decisions for me, shutting me out for my protection." "I know." His thumb brushed across my cheekbone. "And I'm trying to be better, trying to include you instead of exclude you, but it's hard when every instinct I have screams to keep you far away from danger." "I don't want to be kept away," I said. "I want to be your partner, not your protected asset." "Then be my partner," he said simply. "Stay, fight with me, call me out when I'm being a controlling asshole. Just don't leave." "I'm tired of leaving," I admitted, "but I'm also tired of not knowing if I can trust you." "Then let me prove it." His forehead touched mine. "Let me prove that I've learned, that I'm different, that this time I choose you and trust you." I wanted to believe him, wanted it so badly it ached, but James's words echoed in my head about feeling secure, about not walking on tightropes, about choosing someone who didn't make me anxious. I need time, I said finally. I need to think about what I actually want versus what I'm afraid to want. Pain flashed across his face, but he nodded. How much time? I don't know. I pulled back, needing physical distance to think, but I can't stay here tonight. I need space. Okay, the word sounded like it cost him everything. Where will you go? James offered me his guest room, I said, and watched Adrian's jaw clench. Nothing's going to happen. We're just friends. Friends, he repeated, like the word tasted bad. The man who's in love with you is just your friend. The man who has a fiancé who wants him back, I countered. Yes, just friends. He walked me to the door, his hand lingering on my waist. I love you, for what it's worth. I love you more than I've ever loved anything, and I will wait however long it takes for you to believe that. Don't wait, I said, even though it killed me. If someone else comes along, there is no one else. He cut me off. There's never been anyone else, not really. Just you, always you. I left before I could change my mind, before I could fall back into his arms and pretend that love was enough, that intensity could substitute for trust. James picked me up from the lobby, read my expression, and didn't ask questions, just drove me to his apartment and showed me to the guest room with nothing but gentle understanding. Thank you, I said at the door. For this, for being patient with my mess. That's what friends do. He smiled, but there was something in his eyes that said he hoped we'd be more than friends someday. As I lay in James's guest bed, my phone buzzed with one final text from Adrian. Adrian, I'm not giving up on us. Take your time, figure out what you need, but know that I'm here, I'm staying, and I'm fighting for you even if you don't want me to. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Me. I know. That's what scares me. Because choosing Adrian meant choosing chaos, choosing to trust someone who'd broken that trust before, choosing intensity over security. And I still didn't know if I was brave enough to make that choice. Chapter 7. The Kiss.
It's not the same anymore.
That doesn't burn. I woke up in James's guest room to the smell of coffee and pancakes. For a moment, I let myself pretend this was my life, waking up to domestic normalcy, no danger lurking in shadows. No phones buzzing with threats in Russian, just the simple comfort of breakfast and safety. James was in the kitchen when I emerged, still in pajama pants and a t-shirt that showed off the kind of body you got from regular gym visits instead of street fights. He smiled when he saw me, easy and warm, handing me coffee that was good but not perfect, missing that extra shot of espresso Adrian always remembered I needed. Morning, he said, plating pancakes with the careful attention of someone who actually enjoyed cooking. Sleep okay? Better than I expected, I admitted, sliding onto a bar stool. The kitchen was clean and organized, everything in its place, so different from Adrian's space where expensive chaos reigned, where you might find a loaded gun next to a first edition Tolstoy. Good, James set a plate in front of me. I was thinking, if you're not doing anything today, we could do something normal. Maybe hit that farmer's market in Harvard Square, grab lunch somewhere that doesn't have armed security. The offer was sweet, genuine, exactly what I should want. So why did it feel like being offered beige when I'd been living in Technicolor? That sounds nice, I said, and meant it, even if nice felt like settling. We spent the morning at the farmer's market, James holding my hand as we walked between stalls selling organic vegetables and artisanal bread. He was attentive and present, asked my opinion on things, made me laugh with stories from law school. Everything was easy and comfortable and completely lacking in the electric tension that made my skin feel too tight. Try this. He offered me a sample of local honey, his fingers brushing my lips. The touch was pleasant, sweet even, but it didn't make me forget to breathe, didn't make my heart stutter, didn't make the world narrow down to just that point of contact. I wanted to feel more, tried to manufacture the intensity through sheer force of will, but you can't fake chemistry, can't convince yourself that warm is the same as burning. Good? James asked, watching my face. Really good, I lied. Or maybe it wasn't a lie. Maybe the honey was good and I was the problem. Maybe I'd been ruined by intensity and couldn't appreciate gentleness anymore. We bought strawberries and cheese and fancy bread, building the ingredients for a picnic neither of us mentioned. The domesticity of it all should have been charming. Instead, it felt like playing house, like pretending to be people we weren't. Reese. James stopped walking, pulling me to face him. Can I ask you something? Always. Are you here because you want to be, or because you're running from him? The question was fair, brutal, deserved. I don't know, I admitted. Maybe both. Is that terrible? It's honest. He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, the gesture tender but somehow wrong, too gentle, too careful, like I was something fragile instead of something wild that needed to be matched. And I appreciate honesty, even when it hurts, especially then. His smile was sad. Because pretending doesn't work, trust me. I tried it with Claire. Speaking of Claire, she called this morning. He cut me off, his hand dropping from my face. Wants to have dinner? Talk about giving us another real try. My stomach twisted, jealousy, but also something else. Relief, maybe, that I wasn't the only one confused. The only one torn between what made sense and what made me feel alive. Are you going? I don't know. He echoed my earlier words. Part of me thinks I should, that we had something good, and I'm an idiot for throwing it away, but then I look at you and what? And I feel something I never felt with her. His eyes met mine. Something exciting, dangerous, like maybe boring isn't my destiny after all. The irony wasn't lost on me. He wanted from me what I wanted from Adrian, the intensity, the passion, the feeling of being truly alive. We were all chasing the same thing with the wrong people. James, let me finish. He stepped closer, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something clean and expensive that didn't make my pulse race. I know you're in love with him. I'm not stupid, but I also know he makes you anxious, makes you question everything, makes you feel like you're never quite secure. And you don't? I challenged. I don't, he agreed, but maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe security is underrated. He kissed me then, and I let him. Tried to lose myself in it, tried to feel the spark I'd felt with Adrian. His lips were soft and skilled, his hands gentle on my waist. Everything technically perfect and emotionally empty. I kissed him back, really tried, wrapped my arms around his neck and pressed closer, searching for something that wasn't there. When we broke apart, both breathing normally, not gasping, not desperate for more, I saw the truth reflected in his eyes. He'd felt it too, the absence, the void where passion should be. Well, he said, trying for humor. That was nice, I supplied. Devastating, he corrected. That was devastatingly nice, like kissing your sister. I laughed despite everything. I don't have a sister, but yes, exactly like that. We sat on a bench overlooking the Charles River, our farmer's market bags between us like a buffer, both of us processing what that kiss had proven, that chemistry couldn't be manufactured, that wanting to feel something wasn't the same as actually feeling it. I think I need to call Claire, James said finally. Have that dinner, figure out if what we had is actually what I want, or if I've just been romanticizing it because it's familiar. And I think I need to stop running, I admitted. Stop pretending that safe is the same as right. So this is it? He looked at me. We tried, we failed, we move on. This is us being honest, I corrected. Which is better than pretending. My phone buzzed, Adrian's name on the screen. My heart jumped in a way that proved every point we'd just made. I looked at James apologetically, but he just smiled. Answer it, he said. I'm going to call Claire anyway. I walked a few feet away, pressed answer, and heard Adrian's voice, rough like he hadn't slept. Reese. Hi, are you okay? Such a simple question, loaded with everything. Are you safe? Are you hurt? Are you coming back? I'm fine, I said. James took me to the farmer's market. Romantic. His voice was dry. Did he buy you overpriced cheese and pretend to care about heirloom tomatoes? How did you... I stopped, realizing. Are you having me followed? I'm having you protected, he corrected. There's a difference. Victor is in the gray sedan 50 feet behind you. He's very bored by the farmer's market, but committed to keeping you safe. I should have been angry. Should have felt violated. Instead, I felt something warm and complicated bloom in my chest. He couldn't help himself. Couldn't stop protecting me even when I'd asked for space. You're impossible. I'm in love, he corrected. And I'm terrified someone will hurt you to get to me. Can you blame me for making sure you're safe? Yes, I said, but there was no heat in it. But I'm also touched in a twisted sort of way. That's my girl. I could hear the smile in his voice. Twisted and beautiful. Adrian, I know. He cut me off gently. You need time. I'm giving you time. I just wanted to hear your voice. Make sure you were okay. I kissed James, I blurted out, not sure why I was confessing. Just now, at the farmer's market. Silence on the other end, long enough that I thought the call had dropped. Then his voice carefully controlled. And it was nice, I admitted. Comfortable, safe, everything I thought I wanted. But it didn't burn. The words came out quieter. It didn't make me forget my own name or feel like the world was ending and beginning at the same time. It was just nice. Nice? He repeated the word like it was foreign. Christ, Reese, you're killing me. I know. I laughed, slightly unhinged. I'm killing myself too. Come home. His voice dropped lower, more intimate. Come home, and let me remind you what it feels like to burn. That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair, he interrupted. But it's true. You want safety. You want nice. Go back to James. Build a comfortable life. Have pleasant kisses and boring Sundays. But Reese, if you want to feel alive, if you want intensity and passion and someone who will worship you and drive you crazy in equal measure, come home to me. My breath caught at the raw honesty. I'm scared. Good, he said. Being scared means it matters. Being comfortable means you've settled. So be scared, be terrified, but don't choose safety over truth. What if I choose wrong? Then you choose wrong. His voice softened. But at least you'll have chosen something real instead of something that just looks right on paper. I need to go, I said, even though I didn't want to. James is waiting. He's on the phone with Claire, Adrian corrected. Has been for the past 5 minutes. Looks intense. You're watching us? Victor's watching you, he amended. I'm just getting updates. There's a difference. Not much of one. No, he agreed. But I never promised to be reasonable about you. Only honest. We hung up, and I walked back to James, who was indeed on the phone with Claire, his expression torn between frustration and something that looked like longing. He hung up when he saw me, running a hand through his hair. She wants me to come to the hotel, he said. Says, we can't figure this out over the phone. Then go, I said, surprised by how okay I felt with it. Go figure out what you actually want. What about you? He stood, gathering our farmer's market bags. What do you want? Honestly, I thought about Adrian's voice, about the way my heart had jumped just hearing his name, about how even his controlling overprotectiveness made me feel cherished instead of suffocated. I want to stop being scared of wanting what I want. Which is him? Not a question. Which is him? I confirmed. I'm sorry, James. You're wonderful and perfect, and any sane woman would choose you. But you're not sane, he smiled. No bitterness in it. You're the kind of person who needs extraordinary. And that's okay. It's actually kind of beautiful. What are you going to do? I asked. About Claire? I'm going to have dinner with her, he said. And I'm going to be honest about the fact that I've been using you as an excuse not to face what I really feel, which is that I'm still in love with her and terrified of admitting it. So, we're both cowards, I said. We're both human, he corrected, pulling me into a hug that felt like goodbye. And we both deserve people who make us feel extraordinary, even if that extraordinary comes with chaos. He drove me back to Adrian's building. Didn't come up, just squeezed my hand in parting. Go get him, he said. And Reese, don't settle for nice when you can have everything. I watched him drive away, probably toward Claire, toward his own complicated truth. Then I turned toward the building, toward Adrian, toward choosing chaos over comfort. The doorman smiled as I entered. Mr. Kravitz is expecting you. Of course he is, I said, and somehow I was smiling. I took the elevator up, my heart pounding harder with each floor. This was it, the moment of choice, the moment of truth, the moment I stopped running from intensity because it scared me. The penthouse door was unlocked. Adrian stood by the windows like he'd been waiting. He turned when he heard me enter, and the expression on his face was everything, relief and desire and desperate hope all at once. You came back, he said. I came home, I corrected, closing the distance between us. There's a difference. He kissed me then, and it was like coming alive after being numb, like every kiss with James had been practice for this, for the real thing. His hands tangled in my hair, pulling me closer, and I went willingly, finally admitting what I'd known all along. Safe was overrated, comfortable was settling, and I'd rather burn with Adrian than freeze anywhere else. I love you, I said against his mouth, even though you're controlling and overprotective and absolutely impossible. I love you, he responded, his forehead against mine. Even though you're stubborn and reckless and make me want to lock you away and set you free all at once. So what do we do now? I asked. Now, his smile was devastating. We figure out how to be partners, how to trust each other, how to build something that's chaotic and beautiful and completely ours. That sounds terrifying. That sounds perfect, he corrected and kissed me again. And somewhere across the city, James was having dinner with Claire. Both of us choosing the intensity that scared us over the safety that left us numb. Sometimes the brave choice and the crazy choice were the same thing, and I was finally brave enough to admit it. Chapter 8, The Choice That Burns.
Now you are mine.
We didn't make it to the bedroom. barely made it past the living room before Adrian had me pressed against the wall, his mouth on mine like he was trying to make up for 3 years in a single kiss. My hands were in his hair. His were everywhere else, relearning the map of my body like he'd been lost without it. "Wait," I breathed against his lips, even though stopping felt impossible. "Wait, I need to say this." He pulled back slightly, his eyes dark and intense, his chest heaving. "Say what?" "I choose you." The words came out stronger than I expected. "Not because you're safe or easy or what makes sense on paper, but because you make me feel alive. Because 3 years without you taught me that comfortable isn't the same as happy. Because I'd rather burn with you than freeze anywhere else." His hands came up to frame my face, thumbs brushing across my cheekbones with devastating gentleness. "You have no idea how long I've waited to hear you say that." "Tell me," I said, suddenly needing to know. "Tell me what these 3 years were like for you." Something shifted in his expression, vulnerability replacing the confidence. "Reese, please." I covered his hands with mine. "I need to understand. I need to know that sending me away hurt you too." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he took my hand and led me to the couch, sat down and pulled me onto his lap like he needed the contact to get through this. "You want to know what the past 3 years were like?" His voice was rough. "They were hell. Every single day was hell, knowing you were out there somewhere, living a life that didn't include me." "Then why?" "Because I was 27 and stupid and convinced that the only way to protect you was to keep you completely separate from my world." He cut me off. "Because I was young enough to think love meant making choices for people instead of with them." "You were trying to protect me," I said quietly. "I was trying to survive," he corrected. "Because the alternative was watching you die. And Reese, I couldn't," his voice cracked slightly, "I couldn't watch you die." "Tell me," I said again. "Tell me everything." He took a breath, and then he started talking. "Adrian's POV? You want to know the truth? The real truth about why I sent you away?" It was a Thursday in February, 6 weeks after you'd moved into my apartment. 3 weeks after I'd realized I was completely in love with you. I was at a warehouse in the industrial district. Routine meeting with suppliers. Nothing dangerous. Nothing that should have gone wrong. Except Dmitry Kozlov had other plans. The explosion happened at 3:47 p.m. I know because I was checking my watch, thinking about how I needed to get home because you were making dinner, and I'd promised to be there by 6. The blast threw me 15 feet, shrapnel embedding in my shoulder and side, and as I lay there bleeding on concrete, convinced I was dying, you want to know what I thought about? Your smile. The way it transformed your entire face when you were genuinely happy. The way you'd smiled at me that morning over coffee, completely unaware that you were the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I thought about your eyes, the way they lit up when you were excited about something, the way you looked at me like I was more than just the violence and darkness of my world. I thought about the fact that if I died, you'd be alone in Moscow, unprotected, a target for everyone who wanted to hurt me. And that thought, a terror, that was worse than the pain, worse than the blood, worse than thinking I might die. Victor found me, got me to a private doctor who asked too many questions. I survived, but something changed in me that day. I realized that loving you meant you were vulnerable, that being with me painted a target on your back that I couldn't erase with money or power or threats. So I started investigating, started really looking at the threats against you, and what I found terrified me. 3 separate organizations had plans to kidnap you. 2 had already attempted reconnaissance on your movements. 1 had bribed a doorman in our building. You were in danger every single day you were with me, and I was too selfish to let you go, too in love to make the right choice. So I didn't. I kept you close, kept telling myself I could protect you, kept pretending that love was enough, until the gallery burned. You remember that gallery where we met? The one where you told me chaos could make sense? They burned it down with people inside because they knew you loved it, knew you went there every week. They planned to time it for when you'd be there. Pure luck that you were with me instead. 8 people died, Reese. 8 people burned alive because someone wanted to send me a message, and you were supposed to be number 9. That's when I knew I had to let you go, not because I didn't love you, but because loving you meant keeping you alive, even if that meant breaking both our hearts. I spent 3 weeks planning it, 3 weeks figuring out how to make you hate me enough to leave, how to say things cruel enough that you wouldn't fight to stay. The night I told you to leave was the worst night of my life. I said words I didn't mean, made my voice cold when everything in me was screaming to pull you close. And when you left, when I heard that door close behind you, I destroyed my entire apartment, put my fist through walls, broke everything breakable, because the alternative was running after you. Victor found me at dawn, surrounded by wreckage. And you know what he said? You did the right thing, and I hated him for it because the right thing felt like dying. The first year without you was survival. I threw myself into work, into building the empire, into eliminating threats so thoroughly that maybe, someday, it would be safe enough for you to come back. I didn't sleep, didn't eat unless forced, existed in this half-life where I went through motions but felt nothing. People thought I'd become more ruthless, more cold, more dangerous. They were right, but not for the reasons they thought. I wasn't cruel because I didn't care. I was cruel because I cared too much. Because every enemy I eliminated was one less threat to you. Every empire I crushed was one less organization that might hurt you to hurt me. The second year was worse, because that's when I started seeing you everywhere. A woman with your laugh in a cafe, someone with your hair color on the street. I started tracking you, I'll admit it. I paid people to send me photos, to make sure you were safe. Victor called it obsessive. I called it necessary. I watched you build a life without me, watched you smile and go to work and do normal things. And part of me was relieved because you were safe, but part of me was devastated because you looked happy, because maybe sending you away had been right. Maybe you were better off without the chaos I brought. But I also watched you at night, saw you through windows looking sad, saw you delete my number and then restore it, saw you start to type messages you never sent. And that gave me hope, terrible, selfish hope that maybe you weren't as over me as you seemed. The third year was when I started planning to bring you back. I'd eliminated enough threats, built enough power, created enough fear that I thought, maybe it was safe enough. Maybe I could have you and keep you alive simultaneously. I was wrong. The Kozlov Bratva found out I was looking for you, started their own search. That's why I had to act fast when I learned you were in Boston, why I couldn't just approach you gently, because they were closing in and I needed you under my protection before they found you first. Seeing you again that night at the club, watching you kiss him, it wasn't just jealousy, though God knows that nearly destroyed me. It was terror, because you were out there, exposed, vulnerable, with someone who couldn't protect you if danger came. And I knew in that moment that sending you away had been both the right choice and the biggest mistake of my life. Right because it kept you alive. A mistake because 3 years apart didn't make me love you less, didn't make you safer in the long run, didn't do anything except make us both miserable. You asked me once why I fight for you, why I don't just let you go if that's what's safe, and the answer is simple. I tried letting you go. I spent 3 years living without you, and I learned something crucial. Life without you isn't life. It's existence. It's going through motions and accumulating things that don't matter because the only thing that ever mattered was you. Your smile, your laugh, the way you look at me like I'm more than the sum of my sins. I'm not a good man, Reese. I've done terrible things. I'll probably do more terrible things, but with you, I want to be better. I want to be the man you see when you look at me. The one who's capable of gentleness and softness and all the things I'd forgotten existed before you. So yes, sending you away was necessary. It kept you alive when staying would have killed you, but it was also immature, because I didn't trust you with the truth, didn't trust us to find a solution together, didn't understand that protecting you could mean something other than pushing you away. I'm older now, 3 years older, and infinitely more scarred. I understand that protection means partnership, that keeping you safe means trusting you to be strong, means including you instead of excluding you, and I swear to you, Malaya, on everything I am and everything I've built, if you give me this chance, if you choose me, I will never shut you out again. I will include you in decisions, trust you with truth, treat you like the partner you deserve to be. I love you. I've loved you since you walked into that gallery in Moscow. I loved you when I sent you away. I loved you through 3 years of hell, and I'll love you until the day I die. You are the reason I survived, the reason I fought, the reason I built this empire, because every threat I eliminated, every enemy I destroyed, I did it thinking, one step closer to bringing her home. And now you're here, you're choosing me, and I'm terrified because what if I mess this up? What if I revert to old patterns? What if loving me puts you in danger I can't protect you from? But I'm also hopeful, because this time I'm not alone. This time you're choosing this with eyes wide open. This time we're partners instead of me being your protector and you being my protected. So yes, I'm controlling and overprotective and absolutely impossible, but I'm also completely, devastatingly, irrevocably yours. Every dark corner, every broken piece, every moment of violence that keeps you safe. I'm yours, Reese. I always have been. I always will be. The only question is whether you can accept all of me, the darkness and the light, the love and the violence, the man who would burn the world down to keep you safe. Reese's POV. I was crying by the time he finished talking, tears streaming down my face at the raw honesty, at the vulnerability he'd just shown me, at understanding for the first time what sending me away had cost him. "You almost died," I said, my voice shaking. "You almost died, and you were thinking about me." "I'm always thinking about you." He wiped my tears with his thumbs. "You're the first thought when I wake up and the last before I sleep. You're the reason I fight and the reason I want peace. You're everything, Reese. I'm sorry." The words burst out. "I'm sorry I didn't understand. I'm sorry I thought you didn't love me." "Don't apologize." He cut me off gently. "I made you think that I chose to break your heart to save your life. That's on me, not you. But if I'd known, you would have stayed," he said simply. "And you might have died. And Reese, I couldn't survive that. I survived 3 years without you, but I couldn't survive you dying." I kissed him then, trying to pour 3 years of love and pain and forgiveness into it, trying to show him that I understood, that I chose him, that I was staying this time. "I love you," I said against his mouth. "I love you so much, it terrifies me." "Good." His smile was devastating. "We'll be terrified together." He carried me to the bedroom after that, and for hours the world outside ceased to exist. We sealed promises without words, held each other like we were afraid to let go, finally allowing ourselves to believe this was real. "You're mine now," he whispered. "Yours," I agreed. Later, with the city lights painting patterns across the room, he pulled me close and whispered in Russian, words I didn't understand but felt anyway. "What did you say?" I asked. "I said that you're the best thing that ever happened to me," he translated. "That I don't deserve you, but I'm selfish enough to keep you anyway, that I will spend the rest of my life proving I'm worth this choice you've made." "You already have," I said, tracing the scar on his shoulder from that explosion, the one that had started everything, just by being honest, by trusting me with your truth. "Then let me keep proving it," he said, "every day, for the rest of our lives." "Deal," I whispered. And finally, I felt at peace. I'd chosen chaos over comfort, intensity over safety, love over logic, and it was the best decision I'd ever made. Chapter 9, Forever starts now.
How will this turn out?
6 months later, I woke up to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and Adrian's arm wrapped around my waist. Possessive even in sleep, the city stretched out below us, Boston waking up slowly, and I let myself enjoy this moment of perfect peace before the chaos of the day began. "You're staring." Adrian's voice was rough with sleep, his eyes still closed, but a smile playing at his lips. "Maybe I like what I see." I traced the line of his jaw, feeling the stubble rough under my fingers. "Flattery will get you everywhere." He pulled me closer, nuzzling into my neck. "What time is it?" "Early," I said. "Too early for you to have that meeting with Dmitri." "That meeting is why I need to get up." But he didn't move, just held me tighter. 5 more minutes. 5 minutes turned into 20, turned into slow kisses and wandering hands, turned into the kind of morning that made me understand why people wrote songs about being in love. We were late for everything that day, but neither of us cared. Life with Adrian wasn't easy. Wasn't the fairy tale people imagined when they thought about finding your soulmate. It was complicated and sometimes scary and absolutely chaotic, but it was also real and intense and completely, devastatingly right. He still tried to be overprotective, still had security follow me more than I liked, but now when I called him out on it, he listened. We compromised, found middle ground between his need to keep me safe and my need to live freely. I'd gone back to school, finally pursuing the PhD in literature I'd abandoned in Moscow. Adrian had tried to donate a building to the university, and I'd threatened to leave him. We compromised on him funding a scholarship program that helped other students like me, students who needed support, but deserved to earn it. "You're impossible," he'd said when I'd rejected his building offer. "You're learning," I'd countered, and he'd kissed me until I forgot what we were arguing about. We fought, sometimes spectacularly, because two stubborn people with strong opinions didn't always agree. But we fought fair, fought honest, and always, made up thoroughly. His family had welcomed me with surprising warmth, Irina treating me like the sister she'd never had, Katya declaring me her favorite aunt despite not being related, his mother calling from Moscow to tell me in broken English that I'd made her son human again. "She likes you more than me," Adrian had complained after one particularly long call. "That's because I have better taste in ice cream," I'd said, and he'd tackled me onto the couch, proving that some arguments were better solved without words. James had gotten back together with Claire. We'd run into them at a restaurant last month, and the double date had been surprisingly not awkward. They were happy, genuinely happy. The kind of happy that came from choosing the right person instead of the intense person. No regrets? James had asked when Adrian and Claire went to order drinks. None, I'd said honestly. You? Not a single one, he'd smiled. We both ended up exactly where we were supposed to be. He was right. Some people were meant for comfortable love, the kind that felt like home, and some people needed the intensity that felt like flying. Neither was wrong. They were just different, present day. I have something for you, Adrian said over dinner that night. We were at the penthouse, just the two of us, the city sparkling below like scattered diamonds. If it's another expensive piece of jewelry, I'm going to throw it at you, I warned. He had a habit of buying me things I didn't need, his love language apparently being excessive gift-giving. It's not jewelry! He pulled out an envelope, slid it across the table. Open it. Inside was a deed. I stared at it, confused. Then understanding dawned. Adrian, this is the gallery, he confirmed. The one in Moscow where we met. I bought it, rebuilt it exactly as it was, and I'm deeding it to you. My eyes stung with unexpected tears. Why? Because that's where our story started. He came around the table, knelt beside my chair. Because you told me chaos could make sense, and I've spent every day since trying to prove you right. Because I want you to have a piece of the beginning, something beautiful that's just yours. You're ridiculous, I said, but I was crying now. Completely ridiculous. Ridiculously in love with you, he corrected, pulling out another box, smaller this time, the kind that made my breath catch. Adrian, I know we're already living together. I know we've basically been married for months. But Reese Donovan, I want it official. I want the world to know you chose me. I want to choose you every single day for the rest of our lives. He opened the box, revealing a ring that was perfect, elegant, and unique, just like everything he gave me. Marry me. Let me spend forever proving I'm worth this choice you made. Yes! The word came out choked with emotion. Yes! You impossible, overprotective, absolutely perfect man. He slid the ring on my finger and kissed me, and I tasted salt from both our tears, tasted promise and future, and the kind of love that survived separation and doubt and came out stronger. I love you, I said against his mouth, more than I thought it was possible to love someone. I love you more, he countered, competitive even in affection. Not possible. Extremely possible. He pulled me onto his lap. I love you more than power, more than this empire, more than life itself. That's dramatic. That's truth, he corrected, his forehead against mine. You're my truth, Reese. The only real thing in a world full of lies. We stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in each other and promises, the city spreading out below us full of possibility. Tomorrow, we'd call our families, plan a wedding that would probably be too big because Adrian couldn't do anything halfway, start the next chapter of this chaotic, beautiful life we were building. But tonight, right now, it was just us, just this moment of perfect certainty that choosing him had been right, that love didn't have to be easy to be worth it, that sometimes the brave choice and the crazy choice were the same thing. What are you thinking? Adrian asked, his fingers tracing patterns on my back. I'm thinking that 3 years ago I walked away from you thinking it was over, I said honestly, and now I can't imagine my life without you in it. Good, his smile was devastating. Because you're stuck with me now, Malaya. Forever and always. Forever and always, I echoed, and sealed it with a kiss that tasted like promises and chaos and absolutely perfect love. Some people chose safe, chose comfortable, chose the logical path that made sense on paper, and that was beautiful in its own way. But I chose fire, chose intensity, chose the man who made me feel alive even when he drove me crazy, and I'd make that choice 1,000 times over. Because boring was overrated, comfortable was settling, and I'd rather burn with Adrian Kravitz than freeze anywhere else.
Now, 3 hidden fun facts from Lena about the story. 1. The name Reese was chosen because it means ardor, enthusiasm. She literally is fire. Adrian always thought of her, internally, as his fire. The irony? She spent 3 years trying to put that fire out inside herself, trying to be normal with James. It didn't work because you can't kill who you are. 2. Katya, the niece, was the emotional turning point. Notice this. Reese saw Adrian vulnerable with a child, and that changed everything. It wasn't the danger. It wasn't the money. It wasn't even the incredible night. It was seeing him paint nails and sing Disney songs. That broke her last defenses. Because villains don't sing. Let it go with 6-year-old nieces. 3. James and Claire are the inverted mirror subtle Easter egg. James wanted intensity Reese, but needed safety Claire. Reese wanted safety James, but needed intensity Adrian. They were looking in the wrong places. The lukewarm kiss between Reese and James was intentional, proving that chemistry can't be invented, can't be forced. Either it exists or it doesn't. Guys, Wright and Reese and Adrian felt like watching two people fighting against the inevitable and losing gloriously. From the very beginning, I knew this wasn't a story of she chooses the right guy. It was a story of she finally admits what she always wanted. What I loved creating the most was the brutal honesty of all the characters. James wasn't a villain. He was genuinely good. Adrian wasn't a hero. He was morally complicated. Reese wasn't a victim. She was an adult woman making difficult choices. No one was wrong. They just wanted different things. The scene that destroyed me the most in the best way was Adrian's POV. Writing him, remembering the explosion. Admitting he thought of her when he believed he was going to die. Confessing the 3 years of hell watching her from afar. I cried. I cried while writing because, finally, he stopped being the mysterious bad boy and became a broken man who made the hardest choice of his life, letting go of the person he loved the most. And Reese? She grew so much. She went from a girl who accepts crumbs of love to a woman who demands to be a partner, not property. The moment she confronts Adrian about making decisions for her, chef's kiss. She didn't choose him because he changed completely. She chose him because he was trying to change. Because he respected her enough to listen, and that is very important. James represented everything that looked right. Adrian represented everything that felt right, and in the end, Reese chose fire over lukewarm. She chose to live instead of existing comfortably. From Lena, still in love with the way Adrian looks at Reese, as if she were the only air he needs to breathe.